Assembled guests, if you are able, please stand. Their Excellencies, the Right Honourable James Kero, Governor-General of New Zealand, and Dr. Richard Davis.
Ko te amurangi ki mua ko te hāpai o ki muri. Kia tawi hoona mana ki tanga ki unga ki tēnā o tāta. He hoonore he kororia he maungaro mo ki unga ki te mato te whenua, te whakaro pai ki ngā tangata katoa. Aro haina ngā teina, e ngā tuakana, te noho nei i rungi te whakaro ko tahi, pai mai.
Kia ora everyone, please be seated. E ngā mana, e ngā reo, e ngā iwi o ngā hau e whā, tēnei aku mihi mahana ki o koutou katoa. Nau mai, hara mai ki te whare kāwana, tianara o Whanganui Tara. Distinguished guests, it is my pleasure to welcome you to Government House for today's special investiture ceremony. I want to specifically acknowledge the Right Honourable Chris Hipkins, Prime Minister of New Zealand, and Commissioner Andrew Costa, New Zealand Police Commissioner. Mr Joe Harawira, our kaumātua, and Ms Puhi Wahine Tibble, our kuia. Also, my husband, Dr Richard Davis. Hosting investiture ceremonies is one of the most important duties that I perform on behalf of the King of New Zealand. I'm delighted to bring together such an extraordinary group of New Zealanders. You have each brought pride and a greater sense of well-being to Aotearoa New Zealand through your outstanding achievements and your service to our communities. On behalf of all New Zealanders, I extend my sincerest congratulations and thanks to you for your contributions. After each recipient is honoured, I invite you to join with me in congratulating them. Ms Catriona McLeod will now summon the recipients and read their citations.
Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a Knight Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Sir Ashley Bloomfield of Lower Hutt for services to public health. Sir Ashley Bloomfield was the Director General of Health from 2018 until 2022 and led the health sector and the successful management of the government's public health response in New Zealand to the COVID-19 pandemic. Under intense scrutiny and daily public reporting, Sir Ashley has worked at a relentless pace for 2 years to drive and implement major policy decisions that have underpinned New Zealand's response to the pandemic. Early on, he began providing regular press conference updates to inform the public about the virus, becoming the public face, alongside the Prime Minister, of the government's response to COVID-19. His clear and calm communication has been key to ensuring trust in the government's public health advice, with the public positioning him as New Zealand's most well-known and highly respected public servant during the pandemic. He led the Ministry of Health, MOH, in establishing a national contact tracing centre, increasing resourcing for Healthline as a single source of information for the public, and sourcing personal protective equipment. Sir Ashley led the MOH in standing up the first managed isolation and quarantine facilities, sourcing and operating testing services, and rolling out the country's most ambitious vaccination programme, through which more than 90% of eligible New Zealanders were fully vaccinated. Sir Ashley Bloomfield, please come forward. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of an officer of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Deputy Commissioner Glenn Dunbier for services to the New Zealand Police and the community. Deputy Commissioner Glenn Dunbier joined New Zealand Police in 1985, serving as a frontline constable and detective in counties Manukau before becoming sergeant in Auckland City. He specialised in covert policing for more than a decade before transferring to the Waikato Police District. He became Area Commander of Eastern Bay of Plenty and then District Commander of Bay of Plenty, implementing the Policing Excellence Change Programme and introducing the Prevention First operating model in the area. He became Deputy Commissioner, Resource Management, leading the implementation and embedding of recommendations from the Commission of Inquiry into Police Conduct. Following a secondment to the Australian Department of Defence, he became Deputy Commissioner Operations, with responsibility for more than 10,000 police staff. Deputy Commissioner Dunbier led the police response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Deputy Commissioner Glenn Dunbier, please come forward. Ms. Cindy Johns of New Plymouth for services to people with learning disabilities. Cindy Johns established the Taranaki branch of the New Zealand Down Syndrome Association and served on the association's national board, 2 IHC committees, and Kapiti Special Olympics for many years. She's the chair of Family Networks New Zealand. As a national advocate for IHC, she assisted with establishing People First New Zealand, an organisation for people with learning disabilities, and is its national manager. She has promoted Easy Read, a way of writing in everyday words and images that assists understanding, to be a recognised alternate format. She is a member of the Disabled Persons Organisation Coalition. Ms. John assists Sir Robert Martin to undertake his role as an independent expert on the United Nations Committee for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Ms. Cindy Johns, please come forward. Mr. Waihari Mason of Nelson for services to Māori and education. Waihari Mason, Ngāti Kuia, Ngāi Tahu, Ngāti Apa ki te rato, Ngāti Koata, Ngāti Toa Rangatira, Rangatani o Wairau, Ngāti Rarua, Te Atiawa o Te Waipunamu as chairperson of Te Runanga o Ngāti Kuia. He held a leading role within the Kura Haupo Iwi Large Natural Group, negotiating settlements through the Waitangi Tribunal process, the initial aquaculture settlement, and settlement for water space. He is a founding member of Te Putahitanga, Whānau Ora o Te Waipunamu, and co-chair of Te Hoiri project. He's liaised with local councils and organisations in an iwi partnership involving Mātauranga Ahumara certification in horticulture to maximise collectively owned whānau islands. Mr. Mason was chairperson of the Whakatū Marae Committee and project manager for the Te Hora Marae rebuild. Mr. Waihari Mason, please come forward. Dr. Kath Walker of Nelson for services to wildlife conservation. Dr. Kath Walker has worked as a scientist with the Wildlife Service and the Department of Conservation. She initiated establishment of the Rotoiti mainland island and eradication of rodents on Motuara and Chetwood Islands, now bird sanctuaries. She conducted a nationwide survey of giant carnivorous Paulophanta snails and discovered a previously unknown species, which she named Paulophanta augusta. After its habitat was destroyed, she helped Doc keep the snails alive in captivity and spearheaded efforts to have its habitat restored. Her PhD research demonstrated New Zealand has 20 distinct species and 59 subspecies of Paulophanta, many highly endangered, and she published recovery plans for most. Dr. Walker and her partner monitor the health of albatross populations in the subantarctic annually and have worked to protect critically endangered albatross populations. Dr. Kath Walker, please come forward. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Mr. Carlton Bidwell of Tauranga for services to the environment and Maori-Crown relations. Carlton Bidwell, Ngāti Ranganui Nai Te Rangi, has been a key driver of engaging with iwi on environmental matters in Tauranga. He has worked with numerous organisations and government agencies to ensure engagement with iwi. He is the environmental representative to several iwi. During the Rena disaster in 2011, he ensured the iwi were involved with the marine emergency response, establishing and leading Manaki Te Awanui, a Māori environmental research group. He is co-chair of Tauranga Moana Biosecurity Capital, promoting biosecurity best practice in New Zealand. Mr. Bidwell was co-chair of Manaki Kaimai Mamaku Forum, dedicated to the improvement and preservation of the Kaimai Mamaku forests and catchments. Mr. Carlton Bidwell, please come forward. Mrs. Hawana Bergman of Kaiapoi for services to Māori and environmental governance. Mrs. Hawana Bergman, Ngāi Tahu, Ngāti Kahungunu ki Wairarapa, is Kaumātua Chair of the Ngāi Tahu Tu Ahuriri Runanga. She helped re-establish the Māori Women's Welfare League Tuahiwi branch and was President and Secretary. She was a founding member of Te Waihora Management Board and helped establish a joint management plan for Te Waihora Lake. She was a trustee of Te Kohaka o Tuhaitara Trust, responsible for 700 hectares of native coastal wetland. She's a founding member of Mahanui Kura Taiao Shareholder Board, driving a collaborative approach to Resource Management Act engagement by mana whenua. Mrs. Bergman helped develop an iwi management plan, guiding external parties on mana whenua values. Mrs. Hawana Bergman, please come forward. Mr. John Tate of Christchurch for services to education and Māori. John Tate taught social science and Māori throughout schools in New Zealand. As principal of Motueka High School, he introduced initiatives which resulted in greater educational success for Māori students. As principal of Kaikoura High School, he rebuilt ties between students, staff and management after years of struggles. Following the Kaikoura earthquake, he brought in a guidance counsellor, school nurse and community social worker. He was regional manager for the Ministry of Education. He served as chief executive of Te Tupai o Rehua, and aiming to improve retention of Māori students in tertiary learning. Mr. Tate was a facilitator for He Kakano, an evidence-based cultural responsiveness change program for schools. Mr. John Tate, please come forward. Your Excellency, to receive the Queen's Service Medal, Mrs. Naomi Baker-Wendley of Havelock North for services to opera. Naomi Baker-Wendley founded the Hawke's Bay Opera in 1986, holding positions of chairperson and administrator. She played several leading roles, including in La Traviata. She engaged renowned artists to perform in the operas, receiving praise from media globally. She established the James Baker Scholarship, named after her late husband, which encourages local singers, stage and lighting crew to gain experience and knowledge. She's a life member of Hawke's Bay Opera and received a Hastings District Civic Honour for voluntary service in arts and culture. Mrs. Baker-Wendley founded the Mary Doyle Choir and is currently a soloist. Mrs. Naomi Baker-Wendley, please come forward. Ms. Hana Halali of Oamaru for services to Pacific Health. Hana Halali is the first Pacific Councillor of Waitaki District Council and manager for Oamaru Pacific Island Community Group, OPICG. She's supported her Pacific community since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, creating a frontline team to share information and guidelines. She advocated for support from the Southern District Health Board and Well South to run a vaccination clinic. She led her team to create their own community outreach vaccination workforce and provide COVID-19 welfare response. Ms. Halalele was the establishment chair for Talanga a Waitaki, an initiative for Pacific parents to deliver the Talanoa Ako education program. Ms. Hana Halalele, please come forward. Mr. Ewan Murrell of Porirua for services to the community. Ewan Murrell began his community service as a Lower Hutt Samaritans Committee member. He is a Justice of the Peace and established a nominated witness program in Porirua. A Porirua businessman since the 1980s, he has sponsored primary schools and community groups, spearheaded fundraising events and mentored business owners. He's a member of the Rotary Clubs of Hutt Valley and Plympton. He was president of the Wellington District Committee of the Real Estate Institute. He served as a Porirua City Councillor and Deputy Mayor. Mr. Murrell is chair of the Pātaka Foundation, helping promote Māori and Pacific artists. Mr. Ewan Murrell, please come forward. Your Excellency, the investiture has concluded.
New Zealand's honours system is our highest public affirmation of outstanding individual achievement. It reinforces those things that make our society better: service, manaakitanga, and the pursuit of excellence. To our recipients, it has been a privilege to hear your stories. You have each used your talents and abilities to improve the lives of fellow New Zealanders. In doing so, you have embodied the words of John Wesley when he said, "Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, and in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as you ever can. I urge recipients to wear your insignia with pride at every opportunity, knowing that you inspire others by your example. On behalf of the King of New Zealand, and indeed all New Zealanders, I congratulate you on your achievements, and I thank you once again for your service to our country. Kia ora, e hui mai nei I tēnei rā. Now you will see on the back of your program the words to our national anthem in Te Reo Māori and in English. I now invite you to join with me in singing both.